Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Global Intelligence Update. And joining us again this year, Alex Pryor. And let me just give you guys an introduction in case you missed the other session in this year. Alex is a globalized, recognized technology, leadership, innovation speaker and author, a veteran in technology, executive. Alex has worked with blue chip companies across the globe for over 20 years and has served on multiple boards. She is the co-founder of Include Me Consulting and a founding member of the World Metaverse Council. Her focus areas include neurodivergence and leadership, emerging technology, and the intersection of innovation, technology, business, and people. Alex is known for her broad knowledge and straightforward and often irrelevant style. Her #1 selling Amazon book.
Reverent. I've got to change that word. Sorry, Chris, carry on.
No, it's all good. So her Amazon #1 book, Risking Irrelevance, was published in 2023, just last year. And we've got some copies here at the Octopus House. It's an amazing book. So Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chris. Just want to confirm that you were seeing the slideshow part of the presentation and not the presenter part of the presentation. So you're seeing the full screen?
Full screen.
Fabulous. Just double checking that because my Zoom is being a little bit iffy. So cool. Thank you so much, everyone. It's really great to be here to chat to you today. Today I'm talking technology, which is one of the things I'm really passionate about. I've been in the technology industry for more than 20 years. Been working with blue chip companies around the world, and my focus really has been around emerging technology and what that means for companies in particular, but also for people. So Chris has, where's my thing gone? Chris has introduced me beautifully, so I don't really need to go through this. But yeah, let me rather just hop straight in. So a nice blank slide to start us off. So I got into technology sort of, as I say, more than 20 years ago now, and sort of fell into it. I actually have a degree in microbiology and genetics and decided I didn't want to spend my life in the lab. So I decided, like, let me look what's happening in the tech sector. Actually, no, someone who worked with me left, and they basically said, can you just manage this project of setting up an e-commerce website until we hire someone else? And then they've never bothered to hire someone else. And that's really how I fell into the tech sector. But I thought this was great because it means I could look at technology, but also meant that I could look at business. And I thought this was fantastic because I like technology, I like business, and I could just apply my intellectual brain to this. And it was great. I could figure out everything that was going on. And then I learned some more and spent 20 odd years working with people, and then really started getting into emerging technology. And I will explain what that is in a moment. But this is something that I found really, really interesting. And it's really important. This is what's called MarTech's law. MarTech actually stands for marketing technology, but it really applies across the board. And that's really to say that technology changes exponentially. So technology improves faster and expands faster and changes faster as time goes by. Organizations, on the other hand, do not change that fast. Organizations change very, very slowly. And because of that, the gap between what technology can do and what organizations can do gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. Says that at the bottom, management must choose carefully which changes are adopted. And that's really because you can't do everything. But the problem is because technology changes so fast over time, because this gap widens so quickly, eventually there's got to be reckoning. Now, this happens in one of two ways. Either it's an external reckoning that's going to bring the gap closer, and that's something like COVID. So when COVID hit us, all of a sudden, everyone had to figure out a whole bunch of the technologies like video conferencing, like remote working, because suddenly we were stuck at home. The normal ways of work did not apply. So that was a disruptive event that forced people to be able to actually make use of technology in a way that they did. So that's the first way things can happen to force you to change. The other way is that there's going to be an internal disruptive event. And this can be for an organization, or it can actually just be for you as an individual, for your individual company. So don't think because I'm talking companies, I'm necessarily talking enterprise. Now, when there is a disruptive event that's going to happen internally, you're going to get typically one of two outcomes. Outcome number one is you adapt. Outcome number 2 is, well, you got a business. And that's really the take-home point before you get into what I'm talking about, is that you can't afford to ignore emerging technology. You can't afford to ignore technology. Because if you do, and now Chris was chatting to me before this about how his daughter was using ChatGPT to try and translate her essay from English into Afrikaans. Now, we didn't have anything like that when we were kids. But that's just, Chris, I'm not sure how old your daughter is, but that's just something that's happening naturally for the younger generation now. They're just naturally using technology the way every generation has naturally used technology that is new to them. And then we hit a certain point and we go, oh, new technology. Ah, don't want to go away. But if you do that, you're actually doing yourself a disservice, because you might be not doing it, but I am, Chris is, the upcoming entrepreneurs and companies are. And you really are risking in the next literally 5 to 10 years putting yourself out of business if you don't figure out what technology can and should be doing for you. So when I talk about emerging technology, what do I mean? Well, this is the emerging technology curve. So you can see that at the beginning, we've got our innovators, first 2.5%, and you've probably come across these guys. These are the guys who are so enthusiastic about everything. They're going to corner you at dinner and they are going to bend your ear about the latest thing. Now, it could be technology, it could be something else, but they're going to tell you how it's amazing and it's brilliant and you should get into it right now. And they are very, very intense. And you kind of just back away a little bit because they're kind of scary. However, these guys generally are ahead of the curve. They're not always. So you've got to be able to kind of do a little bit of critical thinking, but often they're ahead of the curve. When you get to it, early adopters, and that's really taking us up to the first 15% of the population that is using technology. That's really where we talk about emerging technology. So not necessarily new technology, but emerging technology in terms of adoption. And that's really where you've got a broader adoption in the wider populace, but you've also got your corporate adopters. They're starting to come in now and they're starting to spend money being thrown at this sort of technology. And the reason I say it's not necessarily new technology is if we take, for example, AI, and I will chat a little bit more about AI later, but if we take AI, AI has been around since the 1950s. It's just, but what we're thinking of AI today is what we call generative AI, which is your ChatGPT and similar. And that's still very much an emerging technology. So it doesn't have to be new. It just has to be relatively early in the adoption curve of people using it. Just to quickly go through the rest of this, the early majority, that really takes us up to about 50%. And when we've got 50%, it's a nice little downward spiral, or not spiral, downwards curve, that everyone else suddenly hops on board. If you remember back, for those of us who are old enough to when the iPhone came out, when it first came out, what the heck was this weird thing? Like, who the hell needs a screen that big and it's glass? What are we going to use this for? What the hell are these apps? That took off pretty damn quickly. But at the beginning, it was weird. Now, pretty much everyone, regardless of where they live, what their socioeconomic status is, they have a smartphone. So we're really much in the laggard stage of adoption. If you don't have a smartphone these days, the odds are probably that you either are deliberately not embracing technology, or you do not have the means or the ability to acquire technology. It probably means that you're living in a fairly poverty-stricken area or in a poverty-stricken state. That said, here in South Africa, even though we have a mass amount of poverty, I think the smartphone adoption is over the 90% mark. So we really are here at the end of this. So once we get to this point where we're nicely on the downward trajectory of everyone adopting it, and we've got the market share, as we can see over here, hitting up to 100%, that's where we hit the democratization of technology. That's when it gets cheaper, it's more easily accessible, and everyone just seems to be using it. But the more I really looked at this and the more I went through looking at technology and looking how technology was used, what really happened was I realized there was a problem. So I was really, really happy in the initials because I had technology, I had business, but there was a piece of the puzzle missing. And unfortunately for me, that piece of the puzzle was people. And as we can sure you guys know, people are always the wild card. People are the things that make things work differently than you expect. People are the things that have emotions. People are the things that really require you to engage with them to understand. So for me, people are a little bit scary for me. I am neurodivergent, so I don't read social cues as well as some other people. So people are a little bit scary, but I realized that with all of this, you can't ignore the people part of the equation when you're thinking about technology and emerging technology, because people are an important part of it. How they use technology, and they use it in ways you can't even imagine. That's really important to the picture. And if you don't consider the people aspect, you're actually going to get yourself into trouble. So let's talk emerging technology. And I talk about emerging technology rather than the term I used a couple of years ago, which was Web3. Now, when I used to use the term Web3, it was great, I used to talk about it until Mike actually brought me up cold and said, the first time I met him, we were in one of these sales masterminds that he does, and everyone had to stand up, do their little 2-minute bit. And you stood up and I was talking about Web3, and he stopped me about 30 seconds and he said, whoa, Alex, just stop there. Talk to the room. Who here knows what Web3 is? Crickets. Not a single hand went up. And there were some tech people in the room. Not a single hand went up. Light bulb moment. And what that light bulb moment for me really was saying that as tech people, we love our jargon. God, we love it. It's fantastic. It's great. It's amazing. Because when you start learning the tech jargon, but it feels like you're a bit of like, you're a bit of an exclusive club. Like, I know what you understand. I understand what you're saying. So it makes us feel smart. It makes us feel we're part of something at the beginning. Unfortunately, as we go on, we just forget that not everyone knows the same things we know. Not everyone knows the same terms we know. And you wouldn't be on this call if you knew everything there was to know about emerging technology. You're on this call because I know more than you do about this specific topic. We hop on webinars because the presenters know more than we know, hopefully, about the topic we're talking about. And because of that, it really was an aha moment. And that's why I actually ended up writing my book, Risking Irrelevance, Why Companies Can't Afford to Ignore Web3, and what the heck is Web3 anyway? So thank you, Mike. Because we don't talk the same language. So just like you do not need to know how your car works or how a car works in order to get from point A to point B in a car, you do not need to know how technology works to understand why it works for you, why it is important for you. Same with a cell phone. Just because you use a cell phone does not mean you need to know how the applications were built, does not mean you need to know how the electronics work. And that was my big aha moment. It was like, how can I start translating technology into English in a way that is understandable? And I'm going to give you a very 20,000-foot view today of not just what is the technology, but also kind of like the people side of things. So as I said, this is really quite important. And then we're going to finish off at the end really with what the strategic implications of emerging technology are for you, and also what the common pitfalls are. Now, if we look at this page, we can see here we've got a few different pictures, different number of different things that we are talking about at the moment in terms of emerging technology. Here in the middle, we've got our AI. So AI I spoke briefly about earlier. That's really now talking about how we are using AI in its most recent form and its most current format to be able to make our lives easier and to do different things. We can see here at the bottom corner, I should probably put my laser pointer on here. Here we go, laser pointer. Here we go. Here we go at the bottom corner. Whoop, that's not a laser pointer, is it? Sorry, guys. Laser pointer. Technology. I work in technology, which means I know that the technology never works. So here we have in the bottom corner, we've got this lovely lady wearing her VR glasses. So virtual reality and extended reality, those are things that really are in the emerging space. They're relatively low adoption, although extended reality, and I will explain what that is, are certainly getting a far broader adoption at the moment. This diagram here means the Internet of Things. So if you guys wear a smartwatch, that is part of the Internet of Things. It really just means a smart device that connects the internet. So it could be your smartwatch, it could be a device that is monitoring a piece of equipment in a factory. It could be something like a smart fridge. There are smart fridges out there, go figure. But you can do all these amazing things. A smart home, so Alexa or Google Home, those things are all around using Internet of Things to be able to have everyday technology for everything from a lamp to air conditioning to interact with internet technology. And then on this side, we really have the digital interactions. So we have blockchain, which I'll explain what that is. We have NFTs, which are really digital assets. They're an offshoot of blockchain. And then we've just got how people are interacting using emerging technology. And that's really sort of thinking around the metaverse, which really uses a lot of this virtual reality side of things. And at this point, I probably lost a lot of people who they're sitting there going, what the fuck? Pardon my language. So let's chat a little bit about blockchain. What is blockchain? Blockchain is basically a newer version of being able to secure data and transact between systems more securely. I've got a few interesting things about blockchain here. It's verifiable and auditable. That basically means that, but let me quickly give you my analogy. When I talk about blockchain, it's really about thinking about a book. So if I have a physical book, and I change something on page 3 over here, you're going to be able to open the book and immediately see that I changed something on page 3. In a blockchain, much the same way, is that if I want to change, if I have something that is 100 records long and I want to change record number 3, if I change it on blockchain, it is instantly obvious that I have changed it in a way that is not obvious in terms of other types of technology currently. And with the blockchain, it's not just about one book. No. It's actually about a library full of books. So it's not just one copy. It's thousands of copies at the same time. So I don't just have to change page 3 in this book. I've got to change page 3 in all of the books in the library, or at least 50% of them, because we basically have a verification process that says, yes, more than 50%, we all agree. But not only that, I've got to do it at the exact same time. Can't do it one by one. I have to do it at the exact same time. And I have to make sure that I understand the language, but I can't understand the language because it's encrypted. It's written in a language I don't understand. So it's highly secure. It's highly robust because it's not just one library. It's more like an Amazon Kindle book. There are thousands and thousands of copies all around the world, and they're not necessarily all available at the exact same time. So it is something that's turning technology very, very secure, but people. And you probably, if you haven't heard of blockchain, you've probably heard of someone like these guys. Let me just come here. And let's see if my little video will play. Come on. Oopsie. Sorry, I've got to change this back from laser pointer. Let's see about the technology. Laser pointer.
If I had one bet I had to make, it's that Bitcoin is going to the moon. You got to get in on this Bitcoin thing, man. It's going to the moon for sure.
Hey, do you guys accept Bitcoin?
No.
What, you think Bitcoin's going to...
So very, very short clip. So you've probably heard of cryptocurrency. You might think it's a scam. You might think it's dodgy. You might think it's risky. It is risky. It's actually probably not a scam, but Bitcoin is a new financial instrument, newish. 2009 is when it started, which was really aimed to have a different way of interacting with the global financial system. And it has come a long way, but the technology that cryptocurrency is built on is blockchain. Now, unfortunately, because everyone sees cryptocurrency and goes, or maybe they go, maybe I can make some money off this, but it's not something that's had a very widespread of adoption, despite all of the really, really good things that you can do with blockchain from a security perspective, that you can do from an auditability perspective. And that's because everyone thinks about crypto first. But if we quietly ignore crypto, I just want to give you a couple of examples where blockchain is being used really, really amazingly. So one space is in the legal space. So what blockchain is really good for is a chain of custody. This chain of records, things that have been happening. So in China, and I always get this wrong, basically the People's Supreme Court of China, they have a blockchain system for evidence. They've got more than, when I wrote the book, it was over 2.5 million pieces of evidence. It's probably double that by now in their system. And they are more and more of their courts are now being, they don't just have an option to use it, they have to use the system. And it is revolutionizing their legal system because suddenly they have a completely transparent, verifiable chain of custody on what's happened with each piece of evidence, which means all of those cases that get thrown out because there's been a problem with the evidence, that doesn't happen so much anymore because of something like blockchain. Likewise, what blockchain allows us to do very, very briefly is to let a digital thing have the same value as a physical thing. Now, in the normal case of things, I would buy my nice little whiteboard marker, and it's a physical thing, and I've bought it. And if I wanted to, I could sell it to Chris. Now, if I bought a digital hat for my character on my virtual computer game, I bought that hat, bye-bye money, I'm never going to see you again. What blockchain lets you do is it enables the resale market on the internet. And where that gets interesting is things like, imagine ticket sales. Tickets, okay, we've just had the Olympics. So ticket sales for the Olympics, I'm pretty sure they were like, very hard to get tickets, very expensive. And you're not allowed to resell your tickets. Not really. Technically, in most countries, that's illegal. However, if you have it on a blockchain system, you can programmatically put rules in place that say, I can buy my ticket from the official organizers, but I can't go to this dam, I can't go to this match anymore. Because the rule says if I resell it, 10%, 15%, 50%, or whatever of that price goes back to the person who issues it, goes back to the organizer. So that gives us the ability to use things, digital things, in a way we haven't been able to before. In terms of proving provenance, something like a really, really fancy bottle of wine or something for Sotheby's auction, that sort of system is all utilizing blockchain because it is able to track exactly where it has come from and what the sales look like. Final example before we move on is that they use a hell of a lot in supply chain. And one of the big ones is De Beers Diamonds. They use blockchain for supply chain in the same way that China uses it in terms of tracking their evidence, because they need to be very, very certain at every stage of the supply chain that everything is going right, and they need to be able to pick up immediately when something doesn't match. And that's one of the things that blockchain is really, really good for. But blockchain is probably the most contentious one because of the whole crypto one. So, oops, sorry. Always does that.
If I had
so
one
let's
bet,
talk a bit about extended reality instead. Now, you might think that you've never used extended reality. What the heck is extended reality? Because it's not just these the virtual reality masks. Now, you see behind me, I have this blurred background. Normally, I actually have a normal background, but yeah, I've been sick, so didn't have time to really get that set up this morning. However, that's extended reality. Extended reality to put digital assets on top of the video, on top of the camera. So if you've ever used a filter on your phone, if you've ever used something like TikTok or Snapchat, if you have ever used Zoom or Teams and changed your background, that's extended reality. It also means that you can use your phone you can do exciting things like, oh, I want to change my furniture around, drag and drop from certain stores to see what the furniture would look like actively in your living room. That's extended reality. It's using things like your computer phone or your phone to use the camera to be able to see things differently on your screen in a real-time way. Virtual reality, that is the headset thing. That is, you probably all at least heard of it, if not used it. That's really where you put the headset on and you have a very immersive experience. There are some problems with virtual reality. About 50% of people get what we call cyber sickness, which means that there's a massive disconnect between our brains and our bodies. That says, brain says moving, body says still, And the best VR I've ever seen, I only lasted 30 seconds of because of this, and it was of going up in a cable car onto Table Mountain. It was hyper realistic. It was like I was really there, but I felt so sick because my body knew I was standing still, but my brain said, hey, I'm here. But one of the nice advantages of virtual reality, although it's still very expensive, so it's not that accessible, is that for training, it gives you a very immersive experience. So especially for things that are a little bit on the inverted commas softer side of things, it's better than doing a training like this because you feel like you're there. One of the best things I saw was a guy at Macquarie University in Australia during COVID, engineering professor. He was supposed to teach students welding. Now, obviously, welding is quite dangerous when you're starting out. People are quite nervous about it, and you can't have that many people together. So he built a virtual reality program to be able to let students basically weld in virtual reality to learn the skills before they went in to actually do the practicals. And he saw a massive increase in first-time pass rates and a massive decrease in the number of accidents. And that's also why the likes of the military have been using this for decades, because it's very easy to reset the VR program. It's very expensive to replace the expensive fighter jet. And we're seeing more and more of this in the private and in the corporate spaces using virtual reality. And what we now have is what we call mixed reality. I'm going to show you a quick video now, and the Apple Vision Pro is probably near the top of the game for this. And that is a mix of virtual reality and extended reality, in that you've got to head to the real world. So rather than try to explain it too much, I'm going to just play you this brief video. If it decides to load. Come on.
Hey, ladies. I miss you so much.
Oopsie. Sorry, we have some.
Your hand, they coming to toast.
So this is Apple's version of mixed reality. Very, very cool. It's still only the first version was released earlier this year. Meta also has one, so Meta being the Facebook guys. But what Apple's one is important in the same way that the iPhone was important, and it's this. They've released what we call a developer kit. And whoops, let's start again, of course. They've released a developer kit. And what that means is that people can now build apps for this. And just like the iPhone only really took off when people started building apps for it and people started going, oh my God, apps are awesome. Same thing here. We're going to see a much faster adoption rate because we're democratizing the process of letting people build for this type of technology. However, you knew there was a but. Let's go here. People. This is also going to buffer for sure.
Well, don't do this while driving. The Department of Transportation and Apple reminding drivers to not use the company's new Vision Pro headset while you're driving. Several videos went viral this weekend of people doing just that. A man who posted one of them claims that it was just a stunt and he only had the headset on for a short time. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg posting a reminder on X saying that drivers need to be in control and fully engaged while driving at all times. VR, probably not a good idea.
So yes, people will always use your technology in unexpected ways. Still very, very cool. Very excited about that. You can get them in South Africa if you're willing to import them. They're about $2,500 or $3,500 a piece. So I might be waiting for the price to come down a little bit on that one. Oops.
Well, don't.
Then let's have a little chat about AI. AI is obviously the big one on everyone's minds at the moment. And just really briefly, I'm going to give you an overview of what AI is in a more broad sense. So I've got my nice little umbrella there, and that's because AI actually is an umbrella term. So AI is artificial intelligence. It's not actual intelligence yet, maybe. But what it really means is we start with AI. And underneath AI, the first thing we get is machine learning. Now, what machine learning does is it's a set of algorithms or computer programs. And what that says is that it learns by itself. I don't need to program every if this, then that. What I can do instead is I can put a framework in place, and it's going to take that framework and it's going to build on that framework. And machine learning has been around for a good couple of decades now. And that's pretty good, but it has its pitfalls. One of the first bots, AI bots released onto the internet was in about 2016 by Microsoft and was released onto Twitter. All good. This was great. Name I think was Tay, and unfortunately, because it was taking all of the information in from the tweets and then creating its own paradigm and what it needed to send out, it became a full-blown Nazi within 24 hours. So I need to say that was pulled. But then we get, and what's underneath is we get deep learning. Now, deep learning really is around trying to take that machine learning, that framework, and teach to think more like a human. So that's a newer thing that's been happening. And that's really what's led us to be able to have the likes of ChatGPT. And what really happens there is we're taking natural language processing, so basically teaching a computer to understand English, and also stuff like computer vision, which is teaching a computer to understand vision, understand a picture, and be able to understand it in a valuable way that is able to interact with a person in a natural sort of way. From that, we got generative AI. Generative AI is really what we're talking about when we're talking about ChatGPT, when we're talking about AI in general now. And that basically means that we can take a text input or a spoken input in some cases and say, hey, please create this PowerPoint for me, or please summarize this article, please create a picture. I want a picture of an umbrella with digital nodes. And that is an AI generated picture that I created based on a prompt. Like I said, I want a picture of an umbrella made out of digital nodes using a blue, black, and silver palette. And after a few tries, that's what it gave me. So that is what generative AI is. Beneath generative AI, we have LLMs, or large language models. And that really is the big ass computer program that lets us do this. So that's what's sitting under the hood. That's what actually lets you go from typing in a prompt to getting an output. That's the stuff that happens in the background. And this is where we come into something called the black box dilemma, because in an ideal world, we would know what happens there. But again, because if we go back to the fact that we have machine learning and deep learning, often we don't. We let the computer go off and learn, but we don't necessarily know how it gets from A to B, because the program is just that big and then we can't actually understand everything in it. And that can be quite problematic, as we'll get to when we get to the common pitfalls. Within the LLMs, we get different versions of LLMs. So GPT, not ChatGPT, GPT is an LLM, it's a model to be able to take a text input on a massive segment of data, in this case, the internet, most of it, and be able to give responses based on that. And one of those programs happens to be ChatGPT. And there are a hell of a lot of things you can do with AI. You can get it, as I say, you can get it to translate your essays. You can get it to write your essays. Quick word of warning, it is very obvious to tell when someone is using ChatGPT if they don't know what they're doing, because it sounds like ChatGPT. So be a bit careful there. Other word of warning, just like a person, ChatGPT is a great bullshitter. Do not believe everything it says. It is not a research tool. There, if you're going to do research using AI, make sure you're using one that is specifically set out for that purpose on a research model, because otherwise, as the unfortunate New York lawyer found out when he asked ChatGPT to come up with his case precedent, it was complete BS. You can use it to create video. You can use it, and that's actually a big problem currently in the cinema and movie industry, because you know what are expensive? Actors. You know what's cheap? AI. And using AI for scripts and even for digitally generate people is a massive point of contention right now. Another massive point of contention out of interest is copyright. Certainly in the space of images, most of the images that are used in these libraries, actually the artists did not give their consent to use. Likewise, there are a whole bunch of lawsuits with the likes of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT, because New York Times did not give their permission for their archive, which we might add is behind a paywall, to be used as an input for ChatGPT, but it's there. So all of these things have to be manually excluded. And the other thing you just need to remember with ChatGPT is that because it's based on the internet rather than a very niche use case to say this is what the specific thing is, yes, you've got your New York Times and you've got your peer-reviewed journals and you've got your actual correct information. You also have your left-wing conspiracies, your right-wing conspiracies, your mommy blogs, your this, your that. And it's all put together. And the way that generative AI works is it doesn't come up with an answer. It comes up with the next word. It comes up with the next most likely word in the sentence for what the response it's giving you, which means it's not always going to give you something that's correct. It's going to give you something that's based on the most likely thing based on the information it has. So yeah, basically, double check things and maybe don't get it to do your research for you. But again, there's always a but. People. So I'm going to let Tom Cruise have a little chat to you first, and then I'm going to tell you a bit more about people.
What's up, Internet? I'm north of the border, eh? At the TED conference. It's not short for Theodore, but nobody calls me Thomas, so it's cool. It's Tom at TED. Yes, Canada.
So yeah, Tom Cruise, always great, except that's not Tom Cruise. That's what we call a deep fake. See at the bottom, it's a TikTok at Deep Tom Cruise. That Tom Cruise is quite a bit older than he looks there these days. If you look him up, he's let's see.
What's up, Internet?
So that's not Tom Cruise. That is a guy who does actually superficially look a little bit like Tom Cruise, but it is using artificial intelligence to make him look and sound exactly like Tom Cruise. And that's funny, that's great. But this has some really disturbing implications. Some of you might have seen the lawsuit with Taylor Swift, where basically someone used deepfake AI to put Taylor Swift's head on a porn star starring in a porn film. There are a lot of really scary cases where people are duplicating voices, and voices are very easy to duplicate. You only need a sentence or two, where people have been phoned up basically by someone they think they know, saying, you know, I'm in hospital, I'm in jail, or your mom has been in an accident, and basically using these as scams. And the corporate world isn't immune either. In May, there was a case in Hong Kong where guy, his boss phoned up, was on vacation, says, look, I need you to release this money. And because he'd done his security training, he's like, you know, I need to double check this. Can we just hop on a call? The boss was like, sure. Hopped on a call, live video call with him, his boss, and a whole bunch of other people in the company that he knew. He knew the people, he had interacted with them previously. He knew their backgrounds, he knew what their nuances were like. Conversation, okay, all cool. He released the money, and I forget whether the figure was, I think it was about 250 million. Was either 250,000, $250 million. I think it was actually in the millions. Not a single person on that call was real. Not a single person other than the guy who released the money was real. So this is a genuine news story. You can look it up, and that's what you can do with technology. And the technology is just starting out. It is the worst it will ever be right now. So again, people. So what I'm really saying here is that technology itself is neither good nor bad, but what people do with it can go to either side. So on the one hand, you've got the guys who are going to do bad things with tech. Fortunately, on the other side, people are using tech to counteract them. But you're always going to have that give and take. So let's have a little chat. Now we've done the fun stuff. What are the strategic implications of emerging technology? Well, first, obviously, they're changing competitive landscapes. I spoke about this at the beginning. If you're not thinking about what technology can do for you, the odds are good that your competitor is. And maybe it's as simple as they're streamlining how they get stuff done. Maybe it's they're writing a book faster because they're using AI to help them set it out and plan it. Maybe they have a digital assistant to come into the meeting and take notes for them. So it's changing how we do business, changing how we interact with people. As I said, especially the younger generation, basically your future customers, your future employees, they're already using this natively. They're expecting you to use it too. It's transforming business models. So, I mean, there's obviously the big scare, is AI going to steal my job? And the answer you normally hear is no, but a person using AI will steal your job, which unfortunately is a little bit simplistic. And that's because for a lot of people, AI will steal your job. It was a person with AI stealing your job, but it's not one-to-one. One person with AI is going to take the jobs of 10 people. Legal is a very good one for this. You're no longer going to need 10 paralegals working for your firm to be able to go and look up case precedent. You just need a subscription to the legal AI. You don't need 100 lawyers a year anymore. You need 2 lawyers a year. So all of these things are transforming into coming up with exist before. And that's always the thing that I like to remember, is that every industrial revolution, while it's been terrifying, has come up with more jobs than there were before the industrial revolution started. So what else does it mean? Well, you've got to start thinking about your data and AI strategy. So people are calling it data is the new gold, but it's actually not. It's information. How do you take data and turn it into information? That's what the gold is. You can have all the data in the world, but if you can't use it in a meaningful way, you've got to collaborate more. So you've got to be able to figure out what you can do and what you can't do to be able to collaborate with the people who do know what they're doing in some areas, because they know this and you know that. And together you're going to be more powerful than the sum of your parts. You've got to embrace a changing skill set. You don't have to know everything. In fact, you shouldn't know everything. You can't know everything. But you need to know enough. You need to know enough to ask the right questions. And you need to know enough to know when someone is bullshitting you. Or at least to have a sort of question, say, I need to double check that. Massive change for ethics and for legislation and for responsible use. Said AI use there in particular, but that actually goes across the board. And we just can't forget that human touch. So each of these things was brought forth in a very a view of something that's going to be bright and shiny and perfect. And then we throw people into the mix and they do things that are very unexpected. But also, we don't want to lose the human touch. No one wants to just deal with a robot. I mean, how many people have dealt with a call center that is just based on a voice prompt, or is just utilizing a web chatbot? It's like, damn it, can I just talk to a real person? That's not going away. The creativity of people is not going away. So just because that tech is coming in does not negate the fact that we need people. And one of the great things that I saw was really people saying that was someone who said that she wants AI to do her dishes and clean her house, not to write her poetry and create her art for her so that she can clean her house. That's really where we'd like to get to. So we still need the creativity of people. And that's just something we don't want to forget. This is supposed to make our lives easier, not supposed to replace us. And some current pitfalls. So the first one is really technology can do everything. No, it can't. It can do a lot of things. It can't do everything, and it can't necessarily do everything as well as non-technological solutions. Technology will solve everything. Probably not, no. So I say, we still need people. Technology will fix my data issues. Well, no, maybe, no. Not automatically. Technology, as I said, can be a great bullshitter. So don't, but is it accurate? Are you using the right thing to ensure that what you're getting is correct? My people absolutely know how to use technology. Do they? They might do. But do they? And I ask this question especially to corporates because, especially when we're talking about AI, people don't realize that when you put information into an AI tool, they keep that information. Even if you've got the paid version, because that's what most of them do, they add data back into the learning model. Even if you've opted out, will still hang on to your data for 30 days for legal purposes, which is absolutely fit. What if you are trying to get it to edit a proprietary document on something that is brand new and exciting? What if you put your new book out there for editing? It's unlikely that anything's going to happen with it, but it could. So don't put any proprietary information out there. And most people don't know that. And most people, as Chris was telling you this morning, 40% of people in his daughter's class got caught cheating for exams last year with ChatGPT. People think they know how to use it, but they don't know how to use it well. And likewise, the last one, we've banned technology tools like ChatGPT. Guys, genie's out of the box. Whether it's cryptocurrency, ChatGPT, deep fakes, whatever, it's not going away. I'm sorry, guys. It's that point is past. You can't shove it back into the box by banning it. People have tried. I've chatted to lots of companies that have tried to ban it. And it's great. You know, you've banned it. You can't access it on their computer. Tappity, 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 turn to my other laptop, copy my data across, tappity, 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 copy it back. There, all your security has gone to the dogs. So you need to learn to work with technology, not against technology. You need to understand that digging your heels and saying, I won't, is not going to stop everyone else. And that's really where I wanted to kind of end off for you today. Oopsie, let me end my slideshow, stop share. And that really is the massive 20,000-foot view of what is happening in the emerging technology world. And there we go, Chris, 16 years old for his daughter, great. So there's a hell of a lot. I could literally spend all day talking about any one of those pieces of technology and how they're being used and things, the bad things, the scary things. But to open for some questions, but I really think that's something that you think you're going to go and look something up. And please do reach out to me because I love talking about this stuff. So questions.
Awesome. So anyone can unmute themselves or type in the chat if they have some questions. Just want to say, well, what an interesting session, Alex. All this information. I mean, AI, I think, is going to be what has been the topic that everyone wants to talk to for quite a while. So yeah, pretty interesting. Moira saying, thanks, Alex, for a great overview. Oh, thanks, Moira, for being here.
Yeah, thanks. I do a whole AI talk as well, Chris. So if you do have another gap, very happy to do that one.
Awesome. I'll reach out to you. Mel also saying that was really helpful. Great explanations and examples. Definitely, Mel, I agree on that. Philippe also saying, thank you, Alex. Nikki, Alex knows her stuff. Sorry, I missed most of the session, but do good and read a book. Thanks, Nikki. I agree. Andrea also, we are investing in technology quite heavily, in particular with data mining and scraping for market research.
Ooh, yeah, scraping is another big one. Scraping is basically when you use a web tool to go and like get other people's information of the internet. And we're going to see more and more websites. Very, very interesting stuff.
Awesome.
Oops, yeah, I think I lost you.
No, thanks for sharing, Alex. If you guys check in the chat, you'll see
my connections are...
Yeah, connection's dropping a bit there, Alex. But you guys will see in the chat, you'll be able to
it's
see
a little unstable.
Risking irrelevance. But it's all good, Alex. Looks like no one's got questions. It's your last chance to unmute, send them a message inbox. 3, 2, 1. Sorry.
Cool.
Oh,
Everyone, thank you so much.
Yeah. Andrea also saying, hi, Alex. We'll reach out in the future. I think that'll be a great chat, Andrea. That's a good idea. Mel, thanks, Alex. Awesome. So let me finish it off and just say thank you, Alex, for such an interesting topic always. It's always nice having you on the webinars, always sharing such great information and insights. And also thank you to the live listeners that we've got here, and also the offline guys that'll be listening to the session. Reach out to Alex Pryor if you're not connected to on LinkedIn. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks again, Alex.
Thanks, everyone. Cheerio.
Bye, everyone.